Hello. Today I will discuss about a very important topic, which is about career decisions during the times of recession. This is the second time I am coming across recession in my more than decade long career. I started my career in 2008. I joined my first company right after the failure of Lehman Brothers. Lehman Brothers went bankrupt in September of 2008. I joined my first company in the month of October, just a month after Lehman crash. So recession was about to start after Lehman crash because it was not just Lehman Brothers that went bankrupt. There are other banks also outside of the US that went bankrupt. For example, banks in Ireland, banks in the UK, some Asian banks went bankrupt. A lot of things were happening when I joined my first company, and it continued for 2 years. We got out of recession in 2010, 11. So I have that experience. I am having this experience again now in 2023. Firstly because of the post pandemic issues, surge in the inflation, and the issues because of that, firing already happening in tech companies, and now a banking crisis happening, right? We've seen that two of the US banks have gone bankrupt. They have failed. More recently, the Silicon Valley Bank has gone bankrupt, and Credit Suisse is now in trouble. We will get to know in maybe a couple of days' time whether it will be bought by UBS or by the government of Switzerland or the Central Bank of Switzerland. We'll get to know, or will they get funding from the Arabian countries? Will that happen? Will that at all happen? Right? So a lot of things are happening at the moment. Well, it is still evolving, so we are not very sure as to whether it will be as big, as serious a problem as it was in 2008 financial crisis, but we'll come to know that. But what is important to understand is that a lot of bad things actually happened in 2008 for people like us who were starting out. We were not able to make sense of the situation. A lot of negative things were coming in our mind. We were not sure whether it was the right time to start your career, whether it was the right time to even be in the service industry, whether it's good time to further your education. In India, we've been thinking that whether it's good time to even prepare for the public sector jobs instead of working for the private sector or IT sector, because IT sector was in trouble actually because of the financial crisis, and layoffs were happening. So we were overwhelmed with information. For a 20-year guy, I was just 20-year back then. So for a 20-year guy, it was too overwhelming actually, and I was not the only one. I think others in my company of my age, those who joined along with me, were also having the similar sort of questions in their mind. And I would like to discuss what those questions were and how things change over time. And if you are someone who is having similar question right now because of the crisis, I think it's going to help you actually to make sense of things and take better decisions. I made many mistakes at that time. Others also made mistakes. So it's good to actually talk about those mistakes, career mistakes. I'm sure if you're a young person in your 20s, it is going to help you a lot. If you're already an experienced person like me or more experienced than me, probably you are already in a better position to understand the situation and you have already things in mind. But there are also people who are well experienced, but they still want to know actually what's happening and what's going to happen. Well, nobody knows what's going to happen. It's good to prepare for the worst case scenario, right? If we end up having a 2008 like recession, what will happen? Will we lose our job? What sort of skills we should learn to be relevant in the job market? Should we be changing jobs right now? Should we be stick to the current job, right? There are many questions, right? If you're fresh out of university, should you continue your education, do a master's degree instead of starting out your career? You may be asking these questions to you. So let's get started. Well, in 2008, I joined my first company right after my graduation in physics. I did a bachelor degree in physics, and after that, I joined an IT company in India. I was just 20 years old. I didn't know much about the private industry, the IT industry. I didn't have any experience in IT or programming or anything of that sort. The reason I was hired by this IT company was because I came from a technical background with a background in physics and mathematics. So yeah, the company thought that okay, I can learn programming and work in the IT industry. Okay, in India, people only hire the engineers for that. But by that time, right, by 2007 and 8, company had already started hiring science graduates as well. So it was actually a nice thing for us that even without an engineering degree, we were hired as software engineers. And that was actually quite nice for us, and we were happy about it. When I got my job in 2007, so I got a job in 2007, but the joining date was in 2008. Like TCS, Infosys, and Satyam and Wipro. Well, Satyam story is another story, but I got job offers from many IT companies, more than I think three of them, I think four of them. I got job from TCS, Infosys, Wipro, and Satyam, top four IT companies of that time. Okay, the Satyam saga is itself a story. I can talk about that. It was a bit of a double whammy. Satyam went bankrupt, right? There was a fraud, and I'll talk about it also. But in 2008, middle of 2000, we were all excited. My friends, we were all excited to join this company. I was a bit confused which one will be better for me. So I had made up my mind. And then after a month, we were told that, you know what, we will do another test and we will filter out candidates, right? Such things do not happen in the industry, right? After getting the offer letter, you do not have to write a test to to get selected again. Then we thought, okay, dal mein kuch kala hai, something is going wrong in the industry, right? I was reading newspaper and I thought, okay, something is going wrong, right? Well, yeah, I mean, it was in 2000 and June, July that time, and I was in Delhi, New Delhi. My father was sick. He was in hospital in All India Institute of Medical Science, AIMS Delhi, and I was in hospital with my father. My father was undergoing an operation there, and I was with him for more than a month there. You know how the government hospitals are, right? In India, you have to struggle a lot to get admission there, and we had to struggle a lot to get my father admitted there for his surgery, and things were not very great actually in my family, in my personal life. We were struggling with a lot of things, right? In medical services are very expensive in India, and we were not in good position to, let's say, finance a private surgery in a private hospital. So, and getting things done in government hospitals was always a challenge, still a challenge in India, but back then it was even bigger problem, right? So I was already overwhelmed with a lot of personal issues, and then I got a letter from TCS. You will have to go through another level of screening, and that screening will happen in Calcutta, and you have to go there in 2 weeks time. And I was so frustrated with this, not just me, I think many of us, that okay, after getting a joining letter, offer letter, how can this company ask us to again go through screening? I had to leave Delhi early and go to Calcutta, 3,000 kilometer, I think 2,500 kilometer. Didn't have money to buy a flight ticket, so I had to take train. It takes about 30 hours to travel from Delhi to Calcutta. I went there, so we had to write a test, and some of my friends, college friends, we had got an offer from TCS were told that you are not going to be joining us. So that was a filtering criteria. I was a fortunate one. I made to the list of people, final list of people, but I was very unhappy from my friends actually who we were rejected after getting offer letter, by the way, right? That was in 2008. But I was happy for myself that at least I got a job, and given my family situation, I will be able to, finance my treatment of my father. So that was a happy moment when I finally got to know that I'm going to be joining. And then one day I was watching TV, and then I heard this news that Lehman Brothers has crashed. Never heard about this company, this bank called Lehman Brothers. This is pre-internet age, but there was no smartphone. I didn't have a computer internet at home to read about it. My source of information was coming from the newspapers and the TV. Okay. And then what happened was that I was quite skeptical, like what is going to happen? Will there be another round of screening? Will I get the final joining letter or not? Will we be, acts not to even come to the office to join, right? I hadn't joined yet. I was just waiting. Well, it was in so the Lehman Brothers bankruptcy happened in September, and my joining was in October. I was excited to join in October, and then in September these things were happening. So I was again very skeptical whether there will be another round of screening like it happened 2 months back in July. They will not commit to the offer. So I was again in trouble. I was again in sad mood. But we eventually got to join the company. There was nothing wrong. So I joined TCS in October, and yeah, I met many people from all over India. Over 400 people joined uh, in my batch. We were in Chennai for training for 4 months. But we were all talking about recession. We were all talking about the banking crisis, financial crisis, even while we were being trained in different technical topics like algorithm, data structure, database management system, Java, .NET, etc., etc. But we were quite curious to know at least what is happening in the IT industry, whether it's a good time to, be in the IT industry. And it was really difficult for us to, focus on the training because a lot of things were happening. And in about 2 weeks' time, another event happened. You know, I think it was Monday or Tuesday at 9 a.m. in the morning. There was bit of a bit of a silence in our training session. Something happened. And we got to know. We didn't have smartphone, by the way, right? There was no WhatsApp. There was no tweet. Well, there was maybe Twitter, but there was no social media per se. Orkut was there, but not like now, right? But we got to know through through Google, through news sites that Satyam computers had gone bankrupt. I was even considering joining Satyam because Satyam's training and appointment was in Bhubaneswar, which is my hometown. So I thought, okay, I'll join Satyam. But at the last minute, I decided not to join and to join TCS. Okay. And in 2 weeks' time, Satyam, I got to know that Satyam, there was a fraud in Satyam, and the CEO has written an email to the employees of Satyam that something wrong is with the company. There was an accounting fraud, and he admitted to that. And on the very day he was arrested by the police, and government took over Satyam, and it was a mayhem. Actually, it wasn't very clear as to what will happen to Satyam, and we thought, yeah, it's the beginning of the end of the IT industry. There was financial crisis in the US. Banks are failing in the US and Europe, And other companies, even manufacturing companies such as General Motors and such companies were also going bankrupt, or about to go bankrupt. They were already in trouble. There was already news about that. And Indian companies are heavily reliant on the US and European companies. So we thought, okay, this is the beginning of the end of the IT industry. Satyam is in trouble. Probably other companies will follow that. Things will also be bad in this company. But fortunately, that didn't happen. Satyam was taken over by the government, and later on, it was bought by Tech Mahindra. Right? The director at my training center, every time he would be unhappy with us, he would, we have many options to hire now, because there are many employees in Satyam now wanting to get jobs in other companies like TCS, Infosys. So if you don't pay attention in the training, if you don't score well, if you don't do well, we will throw you out of this company, and we will hire five employees, IT employees in the market now. So you will, pay attention. So we were always sort of threatened with this. But long story short, the Satyam saga was really a big thing for all the IT employees in India that time, and certainly for us, the ones who were joining, because remember that I was just 20-year-old. I decided not to go for higher studies, not to go for my masters, rather to join the IT industry. So there was an opportunity cost also that time. So it was quite a big decision at that point in time, not just for me, for all the other people who also joined with me. They had also quit studies after their graduation to join the IT industry, and then all these things were happening. So we were in big trouble, right? After 4.5 months, training got completed, but the world was in recession. Um, yeah, almost all countries in the world were in recession. Certainly, US and Europe was recession. With IT industry in India, that time, I think 90% of the revenue was coming from US and the Europe, and they were in big trouble. So many people were being fired actually. Wipro, Infosys, they were firing employees. TCS wasn't firing, but later on TCS even started firing employees. We saw people being fired in front of us. But since you were freshers, we were fresh at our university, we were paid peanuts actually. We were not very highly paid, not at all, in fact. We were not in trouble because it's not worth firing us. We are very underpaid, but the experienced people, many experienced people were fired in front of us, and that continued for many months. After the training in the IT industry, you obviously want projects, right? You want really hands-on experience in real world projects, and there were not many projects. So we were actually on bench. So bench is nothing but when you don't have work in the IT industry, you do nothing, but you get paid, and that's called bench. But you can't sit on a bench forever, right? That luxury is not there. So we were asked to find projects. The HR would ask, okay, you go and search for projects, and we ourselves had to do that, right? Reaching out to people within the company to get allocated to projects, and that didn't happen. I myself sat on the bench for 4 months, but we were doing training actually. So what happened was that eventually I got a project with General Electric. I was trained in Java, but I worked in PL SQL and Oracle. So it was very interesting experience. I saw many people sitting on bench for months, like 6 months, 8 months, some people even for 1 year. None of them were fired in TCS, but in other companies, I saw people getting fired. But experienced people within TCS also were fired. Anyway, I lost motivation in the IT industry because mayhem was happening at that time. It wasn't a good time to, work in the IT industry. There was no pay raise for 2 years. There was no, there were not many projects. Even after I joined my first project, after a couple of months, it was finished, and then I didn't know what to do. Then I was again on bench for a couple of months. So it was very demotivating. So I decided to leave the IT industry, and after 2 years, I left the IT industry. I went for higher studies actually. It was a very risky decision because I didn't have money, I didn't have any backup plan. I wasn't even sure whether I will get a job after my master's program. So it was a very difficult decision, but I had to take that. And not just me, I think many people left their job and went for MBA. I went for MSc. People normally leave the job for MBA programs, but I took even a bigger risk in my life to go for a master's in economics. Right? Everybody in my team they were surprised with this decision, but in retrospect, I think it wasn't that bad decision, but it was taken in haste. So it was a bit of a mistake because things got really better in 2010. There was scarcity of employees and the demand was huge, and that's when I actually left the IT industry. So my bargaining power in the IT industry was actually quite high at that point in time because I already had some project experience. So I could have got very good pay range if I had changed my job that time. But I decided to leave the industry altogether and go for higher study, and that was a very big decision. And I think the opportunity cost was quite high because the industry had because the job market was again hot at that time, and there was a huge scarcity of skilled employees, and people with 2 3 years of experience, they were in demand. So I was in quite demand, but I decided to leave the IT industry and start my career in completely different field. So my suggestion to people is that have patience actually, right? Things will get better. Economic cycle, business cycle is a thing. It has always been there. So having patience is very important. Upgrading your skills is very important at this point in time. You can go for higher studies like I did, but if you are having trouble with financing your higher studies, I think it's better not to go for it, right? If you're a specialist, if you're a specialist and you just know one thing, I think it's difficult to find a job. And if you get fired, if you lose your job, I think you will be in trouble, right? If you're in a niche area, so it's good to have skills in multiple areas. I think that's something I would suggest. If you're a fresh out of university, I would recommend to do internship. Actually, if you're not getting jobs, good to do internship. And don't worry about the money that you're getting. I myself was very worried about the money part actually when I joined my first job. We were very badly paid, and I thought, and there was no pay raise after the first year of my service. So I was very unhappy with that. But I think it's good to have patience because if the industry is going through tough times, then there will not be pay raise, there will not be good opportunities. But it's good to have patience because things will get better, right? This will pass, things will get better. In 2010, after 2 years of the recession, things became very good actually, for the IT industry. People were not getting good resources actually, and there was pay raise like 40%, 50% pay raise when we were switching jobs that back then. So things will eventually be better now also, right? It's not that bad of situation. It's still evolving. We'll know whether more banks are in trouble. We'll also know whether it will have a systemic impact as in whether this banking crisis will have an impact on other sectors also, like what happened in 2008. Many manufacturing companies were in trouble because there was no financing for them. Other companies were also in trouble. Consumer spending was low, so when that happens, almost all the industries are then in trouble, right? If that is going to happen this time around, it is still a question mark, right? You can also think about alternate career, right? Back then in 2008, entrepreneurship wasn't very popular like it is now in India or elsewhere also. But you can also think about starting your company with your friends and colleagues. If you are young, I think you should do that. If you are in your 20s, I think I will highly recommend to do that. So many opportunities out there, right? It need not be just on tech. You can start a consumer company, you can start a restaurant, you can start a QSR chain, something like that, or some direct to consumer type companies, right? Easier to start. You don't need a lot of money to start such a company. You can start, let's say, a YouTube channel, or you can start writing blogs and try to make it more popular, right? Back in those days, in 2008, we didn't have LinkedIn, so networking is a big issue. We didn't know who to reach out to. In India, there was this company called Naukri.com through which we used to find jobs. I think it's still there. But LinkedIn has changed everything, right? You can directly reach out to people now. You can connect with the senior and very senior people, even the CXO level people right now. You can reach out to people from other countries also for job opportunities, right? That wasn't the case back then. It was very difficult back then. So try to be more active on LinkedIn. Try posting more things on LinkedIn so that more and more people will get to know you. So it is very good for your personal brand. So I highly recommend that to you. If you are young, I think you should do that more often. Just whatever you are learning, just summarize it, post it on LinkedIn so that other will also learn and people will start following you. Sometimes when more senior people will start following you, because it's good for them also to get to know very smart people, young smart people, and they will then reach out to you for opportunities, right? For freelancing opportunities or for full-time opportunity, internship opportunity, all kinds of opportunity. People might even reach out to you to become a co-founder in the company, right? So I think good to explore the social media in these times, especially LinkedIn, but you can also be on other social media platforms such as having a YouTube channel or posting on Twitter, tweeting on regular basis, or writing blogs on Medium. I think that is going to be also very good for your career in long term. Okay. Among the other things, I would say it's good to manage your finances very well. I was in big trouble back then, but I think the ones coming from lower middle class families, the ones who have spent quite some money in their education, in private education, India is super expensive, right? And you have a loan to pay back. I think you are in real trouble in that scenario, right? You have to repay the loan, education loan, 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs, I don't know, and you don't have a job. I think you are in trouble then, right? I recommend you to take up any job. It may not be a fancy job. In the West, when I moved to the Europe, it's been 7 years now. I saw people doing PhDs, even working at McDonald's, or people doing masters, working at retail stores. I've also seen that in the UK, in London, people doing that for a living or to get some money. But people don't do that in India, right? I think we should not have problem doing these things. Actually, you can ride a Ola or Uber, ride a cab. You can to make extra money. You can provide tutoring also. I used to do that when I was an undergrad. I made some money. You can freelance. You can do freelancing. You can do a lot of other things, right, to make quick money. So managing finances, I think, is very important in these times. If you're not able to sustain, you will never do well. So just work hard to make some money, make some quick money, and be healthy and be positive. Connect with other people online, also offline. If your friends, family members already in the industry, reach out to them. Network as much as you can, right? Reach out to people. Sooner or later you will find good opportunities. Okay. And if you're already an experienced professional, I think in my view you should not worry. You never know, people might get fired, but with good amount of experience, I'm sure you can find opportunities elsewhere also if you get fired from your current company, right? Sometimes it's a blessing in disguise. I know people who got fired That happened during the COVID crisis, and then in few months' time, they actually got better job opportunities than the previous one. So sometimes it's a blessing in disguise. So don't worry about that. I would say, as long as you have a simple life, you have money at home, you have savings because you have worked for many years now. I think you should not worry too much. Just take rest and work on your skills and explore opportunities. Even in fact, I think that experienced professionals should go into entrepreneurship because now they have some money in their bank account, so they can take more risk. So why not? So it's a good time to explore other things, also alternate career opportunities. Right. These are things I wanted to share. If you have some stories, if you have some questions, please reach out to me. Please comment. I will make such videos more often. If you like this, please like the video, and please connect with me on LinkedIn. And let's. Okay, thanks for listening in.